This is Chris Dingman. Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast.
Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by Chris Dingman. So first off, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I apologize if I'm coughing because I went on a bike ride with my dad and my kids, and I like to trash talk a lot. So my kids like to trash talk. So they were talking about how they're going to beat me on a bike ride, and there was a couple hills where you had to go up quite a ways. And I got up the hill, and I was like, oh my God, I think I might have a heart attack. And then my lungs were like burning. And like all day yesterday, I was like hacking, and I wasn't out in public, but I was like, and I didn't cough at all today. But then today still, I'm like, and then people like looking at me. Went down and saw the neighbors, friends of ours. So I went down, I was like, started coughing, and I'm like, don't worry, it's not, I'm good. I got tested. It's not COVID. It's like, it's longest burn is from like trying to work out too hard and being way too heavy on a bike trying to go up a hill. So I apologize for the coughing, but it's just like it's still on fire today. It hurts to breathe, but my kids are gonna beat me. I'm gonna go down trying.
You're not dying on us then, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I might die on you, but like I didn't die yesterday, so I should be okay today. But God, it hurts. My wife's like, "What are you doing? You're gonna kill yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but my kids are gonna beat me. I'm going out swinging, so I still work out 5-6 days a week, and can't really tell because my metabolism is not good. But I got the Superman shirt on for a reason because I'm trying to feel like Clark Kent or have a better body, but it's not working for me. But I'm trying, so that's all you can do.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I wanted to start with Theo Fleury because I mentioned on Twitter that you're coming on and that you were part of the deal that sent Theo to Colorado. And of course, Fleury responds back. And so the first question I wanted to talk about was in his book, he talks about these trips out to shoe swaps after the year's done. And you're mentioned in one of them. And I was curious about, the trip itself. Was it a good time? Was it as crazy as Theo alludes that it is?
Well, it was fun. Yeah, it was a year ender. So packed a lot of beer. And then I think he had some people had some other substances. And they get rhymes of steed. Let's just go with that. So, yeah, he was driving one. I think his brother was driving the other Winnebago, and then his dad was driving the other one. And yeah, it was good. It was fun. It was a fun trip. It was like just a golf trip with feet air, and it was great. It's like, who was on it? Like Weimer, Genla, Morris, Todd Simpson, Theo, obviously. I don't forget. I think it was like 12 guys. And I don't forget a few, but I just remember like Dwayne Rolson. So Rolly's a good guy. We had this like Texas Mickey of CC Canadian Club, I think it's called. Like we've been in the U.S. for a while. It's called Canadian Club, right? So we had this, like I think it's a Texas Mickey, but it had the pump on the top.
Yeah.
It's like they call it Texas Mickey. So like his goal was to finish this thing like on the trip, and he like was trying to do it the first night, but he wasn't able to do so. But I just remember we went to Theo's in-laws or something, and Jamie Allison was another guy on the trip, and he's like a really good guitarist and country singer. And so we're at his in-laws, and got hammered, and like Rolly was like he had the Texas Mickey with him on one side as he tried to finish this thing, and then the other side was like the neighbor or something from at the cabin or Fleury's in-laws cabins, and Rolly's talking, and he's got this like hand on the Texas Mickey or his arm, whatever, and then he's talking to the neighbor or something. He starts talking and whatever, and then we're on the other side, and then all of a sudden the neighbor like gives her the falls backwards, and like he's still talking, didn't even notice, and like so we're dying laughing. He probably looks over and like the guy's laying back, and he's like, "Okay, time to go to bed." But yeah, so it was a good trip. It was fun. Nothing too crazy. It's just a guy trip, and God, you try to get like 4 guys in a Winnebago, and I remember I was trying to claim the bed, and then Rolly was trying to. It was just instead of the fold out, so you wanted the back bed. So if you wanted to shut her down, you're uninterrupted. But no, it was a good trip. It was fun. We had a great group of guys in Calgary, like all those guys. Like I remember like myself and Kale Hulse and Derek Morris and Jerome McGinley. We were kind of young guys and living downtown. So we go for dinner like literally like I don't know 3 days a week or 4 days a week. So we'd rotate between God, what's the place with the good? They had a good cheese bread. Caesar's, I think it's Caesar's Steakhouse. They had like the Parmesan cheese bread, which was really good, but not good for the body fat. That and Japanese Village. And then we had one other place Earls we went to. But they had Japanese Village. We go there too. And it was great. So, you go in there and they do the whole thing like, oh, here you go, and they're doing the, flipping stuff. I'm like, listen, it's like the third time we've been here this week or third time we've been here in like the last 6 days. So just if you can cook the food, that'd be great. Oh, okay, sure, no problem. So anyways, good group of guys. It was interesting though. We definitely had some characters, and Brian Sutter was an intense guy. So, it was good. It was a good start.
In your career, you've had some interesting coaches because you've had Brian Sutter, you've had Tampa
Bob
Bay,
Hartley,
Bob Hartley with the cup,
Tortorella.
and then Tortorella is the one I'm thinking of.
Paul Maurice.
Yeah, Paul Maurice in Carolina.
A lot of guys.
Who sticks out of those coaches is like, I mean, who is the most influential on you?
Most influential on me. Ooh, in which way? They're all like, how do I say this? Man, they all yelled. They all like to yell. And like, I remember Sutter. Like Sutter was good because you get drafted, and the GM drafts you, and the coach drafts you, and then so I got drafted by Doug Risebrough, who's a great man, and Tom Thompson, and I was the last cut as an 18, 19-year-old, and then as a 20-year-old, they're like, you come into camp, it's under 230, and I played junior anywhere from 232 to 236, and I started out, my first year 12% body fat, and then down every year to like 8%, 9% when you go into training camp. So 232, 8% is functional weight and whatever. So they're like, you come to camp under 230. I was like, sure. Come to camp, there's like top, I think it was fifth or top 10 in testing for sure. And then I get sent down first cuts. So whatever. I'm like, okay. Like I come in, I do everything. I'm in great shape, whatever. And I go down and whatever. And, lead the team in preseason scoring and barely play. I had Paul Baxter as a coach, just a total, but whatever. And he thought it was best to not play me and be hard on me. I'm like, you can yell and scream at me, but like, yeah, like not play me, whatever. But anyways, so it was a miserable year, and didn't play that much. And then Brian Sutter calls me in the summer, and he's like, hey, Chris, is Brian. How's it going? I'm like, good, whatever. You gonna come to camp in shape? Yeah, absolutely. And so he's like, what's it gonna take for you to make this team? I said, well, when you come to camp and you're playing with a guy from the East Coast and a junior player, like you kind of know, where you're at, kind of thing. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, because the year before they traded for Joe McGinley. So he traded Joe Noondike and Iggy at camp, played with Fleury at Castles for pretty much the whole camp, and then preseason. So they're giving him every opportunity. And Drone's a great player. Like don't like misinterpret what I'm saying, but you're giving a guy a great opportunity. Same in Colorado, like Alex Tangay. He got they started him out playing with Joe Sakic and Milan Hayduk. Like pretty good. Here, Merry Christmas. You're going to give your guy a great opportunity. So don't screw it up, basically. You're going to score 20 goals unless you really screw it up, guaranteed. So anyways, it's like, you're good. I saw you play in junior. You can hit and score and fight. What's it going to take you to make the team? So I said, you kind of know when you go to camp, like who you're playing with. So I show up at camp. He goes, okay. Well, I've watched you play. I think you should make this team, whatever. So I show up at camp, and I'm playing with I think at training camp, I was with Fleury and Iginla. I was with a combination of Iginla, Fleury, or Castles. And preseason, I had 4 goals, 4 assists, and 6 fights in 8 games. So gave me an opportunity, which is great. And then I had 2 goals in 6. I had 2 goals in the first 6 games. I thought I was going to score 40, and then didn't score for 3 months. So that that was an ultimate drought. But he was good. Tortorella was good. Tortorella was good because the difference between Tortorella and Bob Hartley is Bob Hartley would just demean you and be like, you're a plumber, Dish. With the plumber's room, like, get it deep. He's like, no business handling the puck, no business. And guys would be like, Jesus, man, you're a freaking junior B goaltender and you worked in a windshield factory and you're calling NHL players plumbers. So he was, he'd yell and scream and whatever. The difference between him and Tortorella was that, and I tell guys this, Tortorella would yell at everybody. He didn't care. Like me, Taylor, Vincent Lecavalier, Richards, it didn't matter. He'd yell at anybody. So, like, he'd get Vinny going and do video. They'd get them all fired up. So, Torts was really good in that sense. He did sit me for 11 games after I had 2 goals in 2 games. So, wasn't too happy about that. But, my 2 goal scoring streak stopped quite abruptly for 11 games. But, he was good. But probably one of the best coaches I had was in the minors was Mike Foligno and Jay Wells, the 2 of them, because I got called up in Colorado. So I was in the Fleury deal. I was the other guy. And I went to Hershey. And they were playing Chicago back to back, and they had Probert and like Van and Bush and Simpson, Reed Simpson, Todd Simpson, Jamie Allison, Brad. Like they just had like murderers roll of tough guys, and so I get they play back to back. I guess I got pushed around. So and Scott Parker was the other guy, first rounder, like tough, like big guy, tough. He was struggling a little bit, so I get the call like you're gonna, you're going up. So actually Michel Goulet came and came down. He's like, so we flew up together or whatever, and came up and played one game. Played minute and 52 seconds. I had 17 minutes in penalties, I think it was. So I fought Probert and did pretty good. And then which isn't a good thing because then he wants to fight again. So so yeah, that was the second fight was okay too. He kind of jumped me a little bit.
You're saying in a minute and 57 seconds, starting with Colorado, you fought Bob Probert twice.
Yeah, well, my first shift of the game, they put me out there, and I kind of line up left wing, and I think I was wearing number 4 because I think it was Belak's number, and so Beeler was one of the guys that went the other way, and so I line up, and then like next to me is guy kind of comes up, I'm not really looking, he's like, so your coach sent you out here to give me a try, and I was like, what? He's like, your coach sent you out here to give me a try, and I'm like, it's Probert, and I'm like, no, but if you want to go, we can. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, sure. So the funny thing, I tell that story, and people are like, wow, you really asked you? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It was like, sure, yeah, you're sure? Like, you want to fight? Are you sure? I don't know, maybe you probably scared a few guys asking him that, but I always find that quite funny, like, because people don't understand, like, you play hockey, you could fight and whatever, and you have a mutual respect for guys, and then you go have a beer after, whatever, and because it's a job, and unless the guy's cheap or something. But yeah, so that one killed me because it was like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, sure, sounds good. All right. So, anyways, yeah, that was.
You fought a lot of the heavies, the heavy of the heaviest in the NHL.
Yeah.
Was there any one guy you were like, man, I don't know if I really want to do that? I mean, and the list just, of the guys you fought.
Yeah.
Anyone and everyone.
Yeah, quite a few. I was like, all of them. No, there was a few guys, like when you started out, like Grimson and Probert, they were scary because they could, knock you out. Like if I Domi, but he jumped me, I asked him to fight, and he told me to F off, and then I turned around, and he jumped me, dropped his gloves, and he didn't really hit me anything good. I was like in the box, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you jumping me? Like, you're supposed to be this tough guy. He's like, I didn't jump you, I don't jump guys. I'm like, screw you, whatever. Like, go F yourself, man. I asked you to fight, and I turned around, whatever. But he was tough too. But like so Probert and Grimson are two guys, and then Larocque was another guy. So we kind of started out around the same time, I guess, and we kind of fought in the Memorial Cup. I don't know if our buddy Leamer, our mutual friend, told you about that one. But
well, I know he tried to start something with Big George.
Yeah, he was killing us because we had, Wade Redden, like just a great player, and Justin Kurtz, Sven Boonshot. We had a pretty, excuse me. See, that's still the lungs from the burning of the bike ride. God, bad mistake. I'm not. Either I got to do hills more or just never do them ever again. Walk up. But I wasn't going to walk up the hill because you know why? I'm getting off on a tangent here, but like all these guys, like the Tour de France, the Lance Armstrong posers that have like all the full body spandex. I can't wear that because I look like Mr. Incredible, the dad. Like just there'd be stuff popping out everywhere, look like a sausage. But all those guys, they got like, I got an okay bike. I got a Trek bike. I got a deal on it. It was like $600 US. And I'm on this mountain bike, and these posers are on these $10,000 bikes, and they're walking up the hill. I'm like, you guys are embarrassing, man. Like, Jesus. If you're gonna have all the gear and have this super light 3-pound whatever bike, at least be able to pedal it up the friggin' hill, man. And my 13-year-old just on a used Trek bike, and he made it all the way up. So my other boy made it up on a Jeep bike. So, anyways, yeah,
So what you're saying is you're never walking up a hill because if you do, you're gonna have to eat it on the chin.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta take it. I'm never gonna hear the end of it. Yeah. And then if I see somebody I know, that'd be even more embarrassing. So, anyways, back to the George fight. So he was like no one could get the puck from George. Like I was kind of the same where he was so big and no one can. And our coach Bobby Lowe was like, God, he's killing us, Digger. You got to do something. I'm like, okay. And Lemur's like, oh, I got this. I got it. Don't worry about it. So there was a point shot, and George wasn't even in front of the net. He was like, kind of like, maybe like inside the circle, kind of. And so Jody makes the save, and he goes and stops. He's nowhere near, not even within 5 feet of him. And then Jody gets up and goes over and shoves him. He's like, "What's your problem?" You know. And so I was like, I get in there. I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Whatever. And so drop the gloves, and then so I grab him, and he didn't drop his gloves. I'm like, "Come on, let's go. We're going." And so he dropped one glove, and then I grabbed his helmet and I ripped it in half. Like it was those Cooper ones. Remember those kind of, they were like the cheap, the thin ones. So I ended up ripping it in half. And I find out after he had a bad thumb, so he couldn't fight or whatever. And so anyways, so he had to play the rest of the game with some like a four-finder's helmet. It's like he's got kind of a, George's got a big head. So he had to play the rest of the game with his helmet like literally sitting on top of his head, and the poor kid, four-finder, never played. So I felt bad for the kid, but it was like he's playing with his helmet, like, it's sitting on top of his head. And it was all fun and games till rookie camp the next year, and when I was drafted by Calgary, and he was drafted by Edmonton. It's like, hey, no, we're gonna fight. So let's go, Digger. And I'm like, okay, and you're just hanging on, trying not to get killed. So he was another guy that is so big and so strong. I did okay against him. Like I never, I won one fight against him. I could say that. The rest of them, I didn't get killed. So I did okay. Like I never, like mentioning fighting, like I never had my nose broken in a fight. I got cuts. Beeler cut me for 6 over my eye in one fight, but I broke his nose. So I take the 6 stitches over a broken nose. But I did okay. Like in the grand scheme of things, like I did okay. I never got knocked out, and I never got just pummeled. So I take that as like a victory. So because guys are tough. All those guys, they have the ability to knock you out or embarrass you. That's one thing. Like I was never like my big thing was like I never wanted to get knocked out on national television. Like on CBC or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all your buddies are watching, and like, oh yeah, and then before you know it, like oh my god, knocked out. So yeah, I did okay. So I can't complain. Fingers are a little crooked. I can't. One time I wasn't wearing my safety gloves. I pinched my finger. So go figure. That's why you wear safety gloves. There's my promo.
No kidding. Yeah, the old stout gloves. I've heard all about it. It's you got it. That's an easy way to sell them. Just show them your finger and
yeah. It hurts like a mother.
You're fighting. Was that something like growing up you practiced, or was that something that you kind of got forced into?
Excuse me, God, still killing me. Never biking again. No, wait, I'm gonna go tomorrow. Just downhill both ways. It's like when I used to walk to school uphill both ways with no shoes on, 2 feet of snow. I was telling that story actually. There was one time I got snowed out where I walked to my junior hikes. My mom's like, "You're not staying home. Don't be such a puss." God rest her soul. She's a tough woman. So I walked all the way to school, and then you couldn't see the front of the door because there was a snowdrift so high. So I had to walk all the way back home. I was like, "Told you." Anyways, well, everyone got picked on, everyone whatever. So I got chased home from school, and you had to fight, and just because I was bigger and I whatever. And got in my first real fight when I was 15. Played midget AAA as an underage. It was myself and Dingman. And I was a physical guy, and I liked hitting people, man. I just loved crushing people, like scoring. Excuse me. So I got my first fight in midget, and there was a couple guys like Jay McKenzie and Dylan Forsyth. They're like veteran guys, I guess, older guys playing midget. And it's funny because I ran into Jason McKenzie about a year ago. I was up in Fort Mac, and I hadn't seen him in like, I don't know, 28 years or something. And so he was one of the guys that he kind of showed me how to fight a little bit, and I get practice. He's like, "Listen, I'll show you some things." So he was telling the story how, at the start of the year, he's kind of tossed me around, and about like, he's like, after a couple of weeks, he's like she's saying I was tossing him around. He's like, "Okay, this guy's gonna be okay." And so I got a fight one game. My dad, I guess, had some people come watch me or something. And I had a goal assist in the first period, and I mowed this guy down. He got up, wanted to fight. So we used to do that thing where you drop your one glove and you fish hook put your 2 fingers in the cage, and you just would pull down. And so that was my first I guess it was my first like hockey fight. And then the worst part is it's let me see if you can see my ring fingers. So I landed on I smoked the guy, and I landed on top of him. When I put my hand down, my finger went. So that was my first hand injury. It was a dislocated finger there. So my finger's pointing this way, and trainer's like, oh, your finger's dislocated. I was like, okay. So you just pull your finger and, pop it back in, and they buddy taped it. And then I did the same thing to this one where I went to this is the first game before the playoffs, 2003. I played the whole playoffs. Did the same thing, buddy tape. So you're trying to buddy tape these two fingers, and they're both like, one doesn't straighten out, like, and this one's just gorfed. It's bad. So, anyways, you buddy tape them, and so that was like my first fight. But I had a couple guys again showing you, like, and then you go to junior, and there's always like Sean McPatridge was a great guy, Fatty, Jeff Jubenville, and they kind of you wrestle around. They kind of show you how to fight. And before that, there's a guy in Edmonton by the name, I think it was Daryl Duke. He was kind of the trainer in a boxing gym. So my dad had trained with him, and my dad had me doing some boxing lessons because he talked to some guys with the Oilers or something because he did some work for him back in the day, and was like, you got to be ready just in case because you're a bigger guy. And, like Kelly McCrimmon even too when I was going to Brandon was insistent. He's like, we don't want him to be a fighter. He was true to that. Like that was a big thing for my parents. Like you don't want your kid to be a goon or whatever. And the thing you don't realize is that, which is fine, is that, in the Western League, when you hit people and you're physical, you got to fight. There's no tap out card. So if you're going to run around and, you get your first fight and I did good and you just keep fighting and you're scared and everyone's scared and you just get better and better every year. And then by my third year, I was just beating people up for fun with the exception of like, Beeler and like McAllister and be like Saskatoon had some tough guys. They had some tough teams, man. So other than those, there was a couple guys other than that. Like when I was playing with Marty Murray and Darren Ritchie, it was just like we were scoring. Like I had 40, Rich had 62, and Marty had 55 or something, 58 goals or something. And if anybody touched them, I just grabbed them and just pumped them. So it's basically like you're not touching them and just. So it's kind of funny, but it's not. But whatever. But it's something you just practice, and the more you do it, the better you get, and you figure out what doesn't work. And even in junior, like so, I broke my hand. I had a boxer fracture, and so like I go to the hospital, and it was 2 weeks before the playoffs. So as soon as I hit him, it was one of the Toporowski brothers. It wasn't. It was one that played Moose Jaw. It wasn't Kerry or Shane. Or wait, who was the toughest one? The oldest one that played and spoke. Anyways, doesn't matter. But it was in the guy Moose Jaw. So I hit him with one, hit him with another, spun around. I hit him in that bone in the back of the head. As soon as I hit him, I was like, okay. So it broke it, and my hand's like hamburger. It's like swollen up, whatever. It looks like club hand. And so I go to in Brandon. I go to the hospital, and they're like, "Yeah, your hand's broken." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." Hard to tell. I'm like, ew. So we can't, casting is too swollen, so come back in a couple of days. And so then Kelly's like, okay, we're going to send you to the team doctor in Brandon. So the team doctors in Brandon, they had, obviously a bigger sports therapy thing. So we're going to the team doctor, and so there's myself and Scott LeLuc was another guy. We're going, and I'm driving my little Mazda B2000 truck. It was just a little piece of crap, but hey, it's what I could afford. My parents paid half the payments on it. And we're going on the way to the doctor, so I got a broken hand. We're on the Trans-Canada, I hit black ice, so I started doing this, and I corrected it like 4 times, and I went, woo! Then we spun around, and we're sliding. Like, you ever see that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Like, we're literally doing that, like, we're, like, driving, like, sideways down the Trans-Canada, like, holy shit, like, oh, my God, like, so we slide in the ditch, we didn't flip over, and I look over at Harv, and he's, like, got the, little shit handle, and he's holding it, so I'm like, Harv, you okay? He's like, are we alive? And I'm like, yeah. So drive back on, get back on the highway, just, had a heart attack. And so then I go to the team doctor, right? And all of a sudden my hand's not broken. It's just a bone bruise. It's just a bad bruise. And like, you go like, really? Because it's like, you can still feel like it's bent, like if you don't get it, if it doesn't heal, it's like, whatever, obviously. So they give like, we're going to give you this playing cast, which is like a plaster cast that you tape on. And that thing lasted like 1 period, and I took it off and fought anyways because it was just a pain in the ass. So, but I did, so I taught myself how to fight left-handed. So there was a good little while there where I was fighting guys I knew I could beat. So I just throw lefts and just started practicing, which is kind of stupid but kind of funny. So I had a little confidence, I guess. So long answer for you. I learned a little bit before, like I said, before going to junior, and then in junior we had a boxing gym and stuff, and guys after practice just learn how to grab and I guess stuff like that. And then you just trial by fire. Something doesn't work, you get punched in the nose, it doesn't feel good. So you probably know that didn't work. So I guess I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, oh, that guy was a lefty. Oh crap.
I've heard you talk a lot about the Brandon Wheat Kings, and how you guys were kind of like the Charlestown Chiefs from Slapshot. I was hoping you could share with us a little bit of some of the theatrics. I was listening to you on a different episode talking about Kelly McCrimmon driving the bus, mice on the bus, brawls in the stands, brawls everywhere, and how you guys were the tough guys of the WHL.
Well, I don't know if we were the tough. We had some tough guys, and out west they had some pretty tough teams too. But you'd always hear about this guy in this division, the West Division. You only go play them. You do your West Coast trip. So,
who was the guy in the other side then that you heard all about?
Oh my God! Like when I was younger, like there was like Big Bad John Baduke and Cale Hulse is a tough guy. Like there was Weimer was tough. I mean, who else? Toporowski was God. There was a ton of them. So, anyways, a good story. Well, the bus trips. I mean, Jesus. So Kelly got his bus license because bus drivers was really you can only I don't know what it is now, but I think it's like 12 hours or something.
Something like that.
They got a rest. So Krim was practicing. So he got his ticket, I guess, for his driving, his bus driving license. So he would hop in there and God, he'd just grind the gears. I was like, the guy was like, Krim, find the clutch, whatever. And he's like, hey. So anyways, the bus was like, it was like from the movies. It was like it had Wheat Kings on the painted on the side. Like it was a nice logo, but it was made in 1972 and it burnt oil and no one cleaned the friggin' thing. And so like I have allergies, so it's part of and like gotta get on that thing and my nose would just start running. And so when you're a rookie, like you probably don't get a bunk unless there's not a lot of veterans. So they have the bunks in the back. And so my seatmate my first year was none other than the insider, Darren Dreger. So Dregs would have to sit on the window and I'd sit next to him. And poor guy was like, so I'm 6'3", 232 or something. Dregs like against the window and I'm miserable not sleeping. The coach's on the floor. So anyways, yeah, like you go for the West Coast trip and it's like 21, 27 hours out west. So yeah, you did nothing to do. And so yeah, they won. So we played this guy Bobby Brown. We call him the Greasy Squirrel because he just like he had this wife beater, like white tank top, and he wore it the whole trip, and it was just like pit stain, just greasy. Like, and he had one of the bottom bunks, and so whenever someone was done with like a sandwich or something, they just throw it on basically throw it on the ground and kick in his bunk. So there's like half-eaten sandwiches. It's pretty bad. Like Ziploc bags and stuff. There's like just gross. Like I had the second one, so I'm okay. I don't have any food, and so yeah, we're on this West Coast trip, and he literally had the same tank top on, and so Krim's switching off driving, and we go out there, and then so one year we get in a brawl in Seattle, and they had the two barns where they had the big building where the Supersonics used to play, and then they had the small barn. So we played in the small barn. That place was just like everyone talked about. Oh my God, they're on top of you and whatever. So we get in a brawl there, and I'm beating the shit out of this guy. And I got him down, whatever. As we're like, I get tackled by the refs or whatever. And as I'm laying on the ice, like a fish like lands like right in front of my face. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird, whatever. So I get kicked out, and I was like, I'm skating off the ice, and flipping the fans off, but you can't. I don't recommend for children, but it was a different time, so. But just got kicked out of that game, and then so we had a good trip for the 1 year. So we're 5-1 going into the last game, which is a good. They always say the West Coast trip, if you could go 500, I mean it's a pretty good trip. So we go 5-1. The last game's against Portland, the Winterhawks, and they played in the same building, their old building where the Winterhawks would play. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, wait till you go to Portland! Like it's unbelievable," and. Like whatever. And I apologize. There's some noise in the background. Someone in my family decided they needed ice right when I'm doing a live podcast. I used to be the king of the castle, and now I'm like bottom of the totem pole. Love you. Anyways, that's my wife. She's a beautiful person. We work together. She's been with me like, I don't know, she's kept me around for like 30 years. So I'm going to start crying. Anyways, so so we go to the last game, and it was like Portland, right? Yeah, I don't know. Keep laughing. This happens. The last podcast I did, my baby's crying. My kid, my son, who's great, my 11-year-old, will cook his own food. He comes down, he's cooking pierogies. I'm looking at him like, dude, you can't be cooking pierogies, man. But he's like, oh, sorry, am I allowed? When kids are trying to be quiet, they're like, Like, sorry, is that too loud there? Sorry, it's like this. My bad. Anyways, so we're going to the last game, and we're like 5 on the trip, which is a good trip. And so, like in Portland, they play. Stir that around. Just take about 10 minutes. Stir that around. I tell my pal, I got to do podcasts. I give them time, and they wait half an hour into it, and then they got to come down and get a drink. That's why I did. That's why I didn't walk up there. That's why I wouldn't walk up the hill with my bike. I never hear the end of it. Here, say hi, Charles. She's over there. There she is. There's my lovely wife. Anyways,
second here before we go on the 5-1, as I'm crying, is how long have you been with your wife? You've been with her since you were like 18 or 19, haven't you?
Yeah, 45 years, I think. 45. Yeah.
25 years?
A lot of history. Oh, yeah. She's heard too many stories. She's heard them all. I'm like, oh, my God, whatever. Stop telling that story again. She's never heard this one, though, so it'll be good for her. You can stir your drink, honey, and listen. It's just a beauty. Oh, no, she's going to make our daughter a bottle. Do you have one of those bottle makers for your kids? You know where you load it in the top?
It's like, dispenses it.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's
the margarita bell, the baby margarita bell, or whatever.
That's going to be coming down in about T-3. You hear that? You hear that? Anyways,
going, screw
payback,
with an infant. You're talking to a buddy freaking drinking whatever you want to drink.
Oh my God. Anyways, that's what you see. So I try to get the bottle once in a while, but now our baby girl's got a bottle. So anyways, we're 5-1. And we go to like Portland. Oh my God! Like that place is rocking. So they play Negative Symphony Instruction. So they come out like dun, 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 dun. I'm like, this place is great, man. You'd hit somebody in the boards and just go like they had the fallways or whatever they're called, or so you hit somebody and the place is going nuts. Right? So I scored the first goal. So we're up on nothing, and then they proceed to score 10 straight. So gets like 3-1, 4-1. I get in a fight, and then it's 5-1, 6-1. I'm like, I'm just getting kicked out. So I'm just doing it. I grabbed a couple guys and got kicked out. But so the rule, so our coach, Bobby Lowe, see, honey, thanks. You're awesome. What was that? I don't do hand signals. That wasn't very nice. I'm kidding. Or am I? There's always a little bit of truth to every story. You can't be with somebody that long and not have like jokes. I have a poor sense of humor. Anyway, so we had a rule that when you lost, I tell people this now, like in the age of phones and all this crap, and on the bus we had the little TV at the front. That was it.
A little tiny TV, and probably a VHS, not even a DVD back then.
Oh yeah, it might have been beta. No, I'm kidding. It was VHS. Yeah, there was no DVD. So we always had. So if we lost, we didn't. No movie when you lost. So it's like that was your incentive, right? So so we lose, but we have a good trip. Like, can we watch a movie? Like one of the guys like, hey, can we watch a movie? And I was like, we're not watching a movie. And I'm like, okay. So we go to bed, but we got to drive home 27 hours. This isn't like a 3.5 hours from Regina trip. This is 27 hours like from the coast. So we go to sleep, whatever, no movie. We wake up the next day thinking, hey, hey, Losey, everyone's scared to ask him, like, hey, Losey, you watch a movie? You're not watching the movie. And I'm like, okay, it's 27 hours, no movie. We stopped once in Medicine Hat, and they had Medicine Hat would have the best veal cutlets. They were unbelievable. Like gravy, they'd have gravy, and you remember those squiggly fries, like the McCain or whatever they were. So we stopped there. We get 3 hotel rooms, just a shower. So we literally stopped and had lunch, and then the vets got to go first, had a shower, got back on the bus, and then right back to another 11. What was that to Brandon? Like 10 hours or something, 10, 12 hours. So, 27 hours. No movies. Yeah. So you always win the last game. So if you're like any of you kids out there that are playing junior, and when you go out Easter, you go west. The game's probably changed now. You probably watch movies, but that was our rule. If you can make sure you win the last game, otherwise it's going to be a long trip. But yeah, we had a brawl in Regina in the playoffs. That was a good one. So like at the end of the game and jump over the boards, and Bobby was like, "You're not going anywhere." And my dad was in the stands. Marty Murray's dad was dumbing some guys. And you always hear stories like you think you hear every version of it or whatever. So we Colin Kuchar and myself were big, and we hop over, and Bobby was like, "You're not going anywhere." And Regina had a tough team, but their tough guys they weren't like heavyweights. They were like, probably like in the 5'10" range or whatever. And Marty Murray and Darren Ritchie were on the ice, those the smaller guys. So they had this Czech guy, and I think it wasn't Randy Petruk, but it was like Petruk, like a name like that. So this guy just like hops on the ice, and like back then the rule was first guy gets suspended, everyone else is good, like, which is a great rule, right? That's probably why they changed the rule, because it wasn't really a deterrence, because it was like, okay, like we sent our backup goalie out there, like Craig Cordell with his Cooper mask. Like literally, we sent him out there with his Cooper mask and his blocker. Like our coach, like those, like put your helmet on, dude, chin strap up. And they had it because their goalie was tough. God, who they have, and then Penstock bottom. Anyways, so like after he jumps out there, like go ahead. So like Colin and I go out there. So I grab like Marty Murray's guy, and I'm like, "You're gonna get it." And I grab it. He goes, "No, I got this." So I hold his arms. He's like, "Yeah, you're not so tough now, huh? Freaking pussy. Yeah, you're not so tough now." And then go and grab Darren Ritchie's guy. He's like, "Yeah, how you like that?" So I'm just holding him, and like he's teeing off on him. And I kind of went a little like berserk. I had a bad temper. I still do, but I like to tell stories and get interrupted so I can laugh about it, so I don't get mad anymore. But you think back, like some of this stuff, it's like crazy. But so just dumbing people, right? And then the ref's like trying to like slew foot me, so I elbowed the ref twice, knocked him out, and I've actually seen a little bit of video.
Knocked him out or knocked him over?
Well, I don't know. I just elbowed him a couple times, and I took off and went. So yeah, I watched a little video of it. I've seen two different clips, and then like we're going off the ice, and the guy spits at me, so I punch him like he's over the whatever. Bobby Lowe's goes into the old agricom there. There was about like, I don't want to say like 5 feet or 6 feet in between the actual boards and where the stand started. And there's cement. So then Losey goes into so like Colin and I go after him and whatever. And so it was quite entertaining. But like, so you think you hear every part of the story. So last summer I was going through with he was 10 at the time, my 11-year-old. We were going to play in this tournament, the North American Classic or something, Winnipeg. So we stopped in Brandon, and it was really cool because like, we were like stop at this one place, and like this girl goes, our lady goes, where are you heading through to? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, where are you heading through to? And I go, how do you know I'm heading through? And she's like, I know who you are. And I was like, who am I? She's like, you're Chris Dingman. I was like, holy crap, man. Like people like still remember that I was checking in the hotel saying like, oh, how's it going? I got your bobblehead. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool because, I haven't played there, whatever. But I guess when you're in a ton of brawls and stuff, they're memorable. But so anyways, you think you hear every story. So like I call Rick Dolbo, and all the people are still in the staff, and Kelly McCrimmon's wife and daughter and then son, they're all in the Darren Ritchie's the GM, and so they still have a lot of the same people. So I was like, hey, come down and say hi, sure. So like, hey, you want to, me and my son, you want to tour the locker room? Like, sure. My 10 was like, oh, sure, Dad, let's go. Oh, yeah, let's go. Like, and it's like all nice now, and they have oh, like, God, they get this extra room. Like, I said to my son, I'm like, listen, none of this was here when I played. Like, you had the locker room, and then you had, like, the metal cold tub, like the big metal, like, beer tub looking thing. And that was about it. And you had showers. But they've improved a lot anyways. So they were talking, like, so Rich is, like, saying to my son, he's like, well, your dad used to fight a lot. He's kind of like a little mean. And that kid's, they've seen my fights or whatever. And so Rick Dillable out of nowhere goes, what's funny? He goes, remember that brawl in Regina? I was like, yeah. And he goes, I don't know if you remember this, but he's like, it's at the end of the game. And he goes, I just remember, like, guys were sprinting up the aisle. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, they're sprinting up the aisle, and then they come sprinting back double-fisted. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, they didn't shut the concessions down. So it's like the end of the game. You guys are in this brawl. And he's like, I've never seen this before. He's like, grown men are sprinting up the aisle just so they could buy pop so they could throw you. So literally, guys would sprint up, buy two, and then just fire them at us on the ice. And he's like, I never heard that. He's like, I've never seen that before. And he's like, why are the concessions still open? And I'm like, yeah, good point. So, anyways, I never heard that version of the story. But like, ice was littered. People were throwing batteries at us, and I'm like, I'm 17 years old. I'm like, Jesus, man, you're throwing batteries at me. What the hell? Like, don't waste your beer and throw it at me. So, yeah, that was one of the brawls we've had. We had one in. Since we're on the brawl topic, here's my one last one about Junior. So my buddy, who I met my way through, he drives his little Hyundai out to watch me in Brandon. And so he drives like 10 hours. Like he could do in 10 and a half if you're booking it, and you just stop to get gas. And take a leak or whatever. And so he drives all the way out there. And before, so in the Western League, like, you have these rules. You don't know why these rules are in place until you realize why these rules are in place. You know what I mean? Because there's a reason why something happened. So you'd hear these stories about why do we have separate warm-ups? The road team would go on for 15 minutes and you go off, and then the home team, and then play the game. Excuse me. I was like, why do they have this rule? Like, what do you need this rule for? Well, you don't really realize why they have rules till something happens. So they, who we play? I think we were playing Moose Jaw, and they traded for this tough guy, Van Steinberg, or whatever. So we'd had our separate warm-ups, but then this is like before the anthem, we're skating around. And this guy gets skated across the red line, and Colin Kuche, like, just clotheslined him, like, straight out of, like, slap shot. Just decked him, I guess. So I'm at the hash marks in our own end, and I'm looking around, like, where's everybody, man? Like, there's no one anywhere near me. And then more, it's like for the anthem, we're skating around. So I look around, and center ice, everyone's, so I draw my gloves and go flying over and grab a guy, pumped a few guys, like, literally got in fights, like, right in front of my billets and my buddy who drove down. So, anyways, long story short, it's like you don't realize you have a rule till you have a rule. So I didn't even play a shift, so I get kicked out of the game, but because this was before the anthem. So Kelly McCrimmon, I heard another version, so you hear the other version. So Kelly McCrimmon's in the office, and this lady goes in there. Oh my God, it's crazy! It's like the WWF out there. My God, they're fighting before the game. I want a refund. And Kelly goes, "Hey, you're not getting a refund. B, what the fuck am I doing sitting here talking to you?" And tipped off because he was, coming out to watch the fight. So I don't even play a shift. And my buddy was like, so after, having a beer or two, and he's like, that was awesome, man. But I would have liked to see you play a shift, but that was great. So he drove down, didn't even watch me play a shift. So yeah, we had a few memorable brawls, that's for sure. And there's a few more that'll come to mind. Well, my buddies came to watch me in Saskatoon, and I didn't make it out of the first period because I fought Belak second fight. So I watched the rest of the game, had a hot dog and a soda. So, so my buddy, same thing. That was great. Oh man, that was great. We'd like to see you play a little bit more. So whatever.
When you elbow the ref and knock him out and getting things thrown at you, and batteries thrown, and guys are grabbing drinks, and everything's just going absolute haywire. How many games for that? Do you get suspended?
Yeah, I got one. Me and Bobby Lowe's got one game. So I don't know how. Like, we're the only two that got suspended. Everyone else is doing. I think because he went into the stands or whatever. But yeah, he was trying to sloop on me, so I just kind of, whatever, because I was trying to like get at people and stuff. So yeah, I got one game. So I had to. The next game was in Regina too, so I had to sit in the stands. So I was like kind of crapping my pants a little bit because, I was still 17. And you're tough with your buddies, but you're sitting by yourself. And like Bobby Lowe's wasn't even allowed in the rink. So sucks for him. But like, I gotta go sit in the stands. Like, what if somebody wants to jump me? I'm thinking, like, so I'm walking around like, my tip top tailor suit, my, ugly flower tie, my only tie I had because I was 17 and had no money and was making $40 every 2 weeks or whatever it was. Everyone's like, oh my God, you make so much money. I'm like, no, you don't. And not playing junior. Anyways, I'm like walking around, I'm all kind of like scared, whatever, and like, so no one did anything, which was great. But that game was awesome because we were up. We lost the game for us. We're up. I think it was the best of 5. So we're up 2-1 in the series, and that game was literally like a no hitter. Like, if a guy hit one of our guys, it was like, oh, sorry, like I gotta hit you, because they knew like if they were stupid and acted out, that the next game would have been not good for them. So. That's why fighting is a good deterrent. Like fear is a good deterrent. So again, you have these rules, and but no one touched anybody in that game. It was hilarious. I was like, oh my God, these guys do not want to play another game.
That was in the middle of the playoffs?
Oh yeah, that was playoff. Yeah, it was first round, I think, first or second round. I believe it was the best of 5, because I think the best of 5, like the first round was the best of 5, and then went to best of 7. I don't know. This was like, I could be wrong. It was 20-something years ago. So, but yeah. It was in the playoffs. Different time, different game.
Do you think? Do you miss that part of the game pretty much being obsolete now?
Do I miss it? Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I mean, like, they're fun. Like, like looking back, it's kind of scary, like some of the stuff, but like it was great. There's nothing better to bring a team together than a good brawl. Like, just a good dust up. Like, it just, like, that's the thing, like, when you played junior, like, everybody fought. Like, even your skill guys, you had to have one, like, at least one fight or one or two fights a year. And it was against the other team's skill guy, too. Like, Marty Murray would fight, their first line center or whatever. And guys loved it, man. Like, it was great. Like, so, I miss it. I mean, look at like, that was this past season or whatever. I mean, what was the best games of the season? It was Edmonton, Calgary, because Kachuk was running around like an idiot. Cassian wanted to kill him, and then they had the game, and so you have the goalie fight. Goalies got all the gear on, so they can't really, really hurt themselves too much. So that was awesome. Like, and then the best part about it was, it wasn't even Cassian and Kachuk. It was Nugent Hopkins and I think it was Monahan that fought or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. So, like, when you see skill guys get mad and fight, like, that's for me, I think it's great. Yeah, I think the game's missing. You like back then we had our buddies. Like, I have buddies now that I played with and against, but when you were playing, and there were some miserable bastards to play against. Like Adam Foote, I played with. He was miserable. Like, even in practice, God, he just abused me. And every time I get mad or do something, hardly he'd scream at me. I'm like, he just cross-checked me 5 times and flip my helmet off. And I push him once or cross-check him. You're screaming at me. But, yeah, I miss, like, you watch the old videos, Detroit and Colorado. Like, that was just before when I went there. I wish everyone always asked me, were you there for that or whatever. I wish I would have been, because that was, like, those are, like, you were just waiting for those games, right? Like, you were just, like, Edmonton, like, I always watch, when I can't sleep or something, like, I watch YouTube and I always watch, like, Edmonton, Calgary in the 80s, and it's just like, you're just like, Tim Hunter's going to fight McClellan or Semenko, and, they've already fought God knows how many times. And, it was just like, it was great. It wasn't much of a hockey game, but there were so many skilled players. It was just a war. So I wish they could bring a little bit more of that back. I think it would eliminate some of the things. And, like, they keep saying, well, you've got to grow the game in the States. And I played in the States. I played in Colorado. I played in Tampa. I mean, like, what do you think happens when you go to a boxing fight in Tampa? I went to, like, De La Hoya's fight with, who did he fight? He fought Mayweather or someone. So I get decent seats and, like, 12 rows up on the side. And, like, man, when De La Hoya got rocked, and you could tell he was, like, whatever, and everyone's standing up, and, like, the place was electric. Like, people love that, UFC and, physical stuff. So but they're like, we got, like Gary Bevan to grow the game. They don't like violence. So, like, okay, like, what's popular in the U.S.? Football? You ever watch football guys get hit? It's like, whatever. And UFC is a big sport. So, yeah, I think they need. I wish they could have more of it. But obviously, there's not a lot of it. Like, the skills there, but still, like, just the animosity. Like, just guys are too nice. Like, there's a guy I follow on Twitter, and he just chirps the Leafs all the time, and, like, they're just having a great time. Like, I played with Sheldon Keefe for a little bit, and, the new culture, and that's great. But, like, why is losing fun? Like, you lose a game and then they're playing music. They had a DJ at practice. Like, what the hell? Like, I know it's different and the game's changed, but, like, ultimately, like, if you're having fun losing or it's okay, then what's your, like, why do you want to win? Because you're making good money or whatever. And that was, like, again, talking about going to Colorado. Well, Fleury was there and had a little too much fun, and he moved on, and I stayed, and I was lucky enough to win a cup. But, I mean, it was, like, all about winning there. It was like, we're winning. Like, our goal is to win. And we traded for Ray Bourque, and then, we lost in 7 games. And the next year he came back. It was like, we went into training camp, and it was our goals to win or finish first overall. So if you have a game 7, it's in our building, and anything less is unacceptable. And that was it. And it was awesome. And, we had our rivals. We had games that were rough and whatever. But that was it. Like, it was awesome. So, like, it's just too fun. Like, ooh, yeah, how you doing in warm up? Hey, buddy, how's it going? Like, you can say you do that after the game, but before the game, I mean, people like that, whether they admit it or not. Like, fans, like, now, like, ooh, you got to be all sensitive and this and that. Like, obviously, concussions. I've had a few, but if you manage them and you're smart, it's okay. But it's a risk. You can get a concussion getting body checked. I mean, Jesus, how many guys get caught with their head down? Like, so. Yeah, to answer your question in a long answer is, yeah, I wish there was. I mean, if every game was Edmonton, Calgary, Jesus, like, what would the viewership be? It'd be unbelievable.
Well, we got very close to having it first round before COVID hit, and the province might have tore itself apart in an awesome way, I think, right? Like everybody was just dying for the Battle of Alberta.
Oh
And
God, it would have been so good.
and the older generation loves the physicality and the fighting, and then there's the younger generation that just doesn't remember it. You get whacked, you get their thing of toughness now or of dirty is Crosby whacking Mathot's thumb off. That's pretty much what they think of as it just didn't come through the wood stick era of baseball swings and everybody fighting the 2-fight rule. I think it was listening to one of the hockey fight podcasts where they talked about, and I completely forgot about this, where you used to not get the 10-minute misconduct used to not go against your total. So if you got a 10-minute misconduct, it didn't add and keep adding up to your total. It was just minor penalties and fights. And so when you look back at old guys, you're like, oh, he only had like, I don't know, however many penalty minutes. It's not that much. Well, it is when you think about it, especially if you knock off all the 10s. Like, that's a lot of minutes, a lot of hard minutes to earn.
That was the thing. So I went to 2 Memorial Cups, which was great, but you play the Quebec teams, and, you know, the Quebec teams always had like 1 or 2 heavyweights. And then they just had a bunch of like little weasels that would, like, you know, your Sean Avery's or whatever, the guys would run around and, you know, but these guys have 350 minutes. So, like, I'm looking at before the game, and you're looking at, okay, you don't really know these guys. Okay, who's this guy? Have you heard of him? Do I got to worry about if I got a fight or whatever? And look at these guys, got 350, 400 minutes, and you go on the ice, and the guy's like 5'8", like 160 pounds soaking wet. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how many 10s? I'm like, how do they get all these penalty minutes? They're like, well, in the Quebec League, they count 10. So in the Western League, again, like if you had – so one year I had 40 goals, 43 assists. I had 200-something PIMs, and I had 30 majors. So I had 150 – you know, my math's not that good, but I had 150 minutes in fighting majors. And then the rest, 50-plus, were punching or cross or roughing or charging. So – yeah, there was no 10s. It was like, so your penalty minutes were legit. So, yeah, that's what you're saying. I mean, like, if you had, 200-something or 300 penalty minutes, they were well-earned. They were well-deserved. So it wasn't like because that's what those guys would do. It'd be, if a game is like, there were guys in the minors in the American Hockey League that would do it. So you see a guy that have like 400 minutes or 500 minutes. And what it was is every time, the game was like, the game's almost over and it's 5-2 or something. A guy go out and do something, tell the ref to go F himself and, go a little cuckoo and get 2-5 and a 10 and another 10. So you pick up, 25 or 30 minutes at the end of the game and it just stacked on. So, yeah, that was one thing I liked about the Western League is that back in the days, that your penalty minutes were your penalty minutes. There was no, tacked on 10 minutes. So you earned them the right way or the wrong way, depending on who you ask.
A lot of analytical guys will say that the tough guy serves no purpose and the stars still get hurt if you're out there or not. What do you have to say to
that? Now or whatever, like you could say whatever, but like when Milan Lucic was in his prime and he was on the ice, you knew he was on the ice. And, Ryan Reeves, when he's on the ice, well, why is Ryan Reeves still in the NHL? Like, why is Tom Wilson? Like, when Tom Wilson's on the ice, he's effective because he's a first-line player, and he can hit, he can shoot, he can fight. And, like, when he's on the ice because he'll take your head off. And if you want to fight him, he'll probably beat the crap out of you. So I don't agree with that. I mean, it's very hard to do. When they put the instigator rule in, it was very difficult to self-police because you're trying to get a guy to fight, but you don't want to get the extra 2, 5, and a 10 or whatever crap it was. So you're like, come on, let's go. And then what would happen is the guy you're trying to fight, if some little weasel is running around, he'll drop his gloves and get the jump on you because you don't want to get the extra, the instigator. So, I mean, I don't know. People say that, but I mean, you get like if you're running around, you fight a guy and you get knocked out or something, you get your nose broken, are you still running around? No, because your nose is all plugged up and you got 2 pieces of cotton in there. You're wearing a full cage. Then you got the bubble cage on, and then you're playing. So I think it still serves a purpose. I think the guys, obviously you have to be able to play. And if you can skate and you can hit and you can fight, so those guys that can do it, like the Wilsons and obviously there's other guys I'm not thinking off the top of my head, but like Lucic in his prime was the best because he would try and bury guys 5 rows deep, and then if anybody touched one of his guys, like, you were gonna get it. Like the Matt Cook thing, even that bad, like the animosity between it was Pittsburgh and Boston. Remember Matt Cook, Savardi caught him with the elbow or whatever, and so what happens and stuff like that. So even you probably notice a little bit is that. So, like the Colorado and the Detroit, the animosity was it. So Claude Lemieux started all that. And Claude Lemieux's not a fighter, but man, like we were playing cards one time, and he got pissed and he grabbed the deck of cards and he ripped them in half. Like a full deck of cards, he ripped them in half. I can't do that. Like, how strong are you to rip a deck of cards in half? Well, pretty strong, I think. So, but he started all of that animosity by that bad hit, right? So, like, there's that. And then, so I remember, like, when I went to Colorado, everyone's like, they were talking about, and they're finally like, you got to fight. Like, we're all fighting for you. Like, go after yourself. Like, to Lemieux, like, you started this. You got to fight. Like, next game, you know what I mean? So then, I don't know if you remember, like, he lines up against McCarty, and he does okay. Like, he fights him, and he does pretty good. That's all he had to do. But 15 other guys there was like, how many 5 line brawls in between that, and goalie fights, like Waz fighting Osgood, whatever. Yeah. In between that, because he started all that shit and he didn't fight. So, even the Matt Cook thing too, like, where, he had to answer for it. So, again, same thing. Guys are like, because what happens is that, Crosby and the skill guys are like, listen, you're running around like a donkey. Like, you better fight because, I'm getting chopped. Because what happens if you don't fight, there's a way to make guys fight. So when he finally fought, it was because his skill guys went. Like, Crosby went, like, listen, you're fighting. So he fought, I think it was Thornton at the start of the game or whatever, and, he did okay. He didn't get knocked out, and that's all you got to do. But if you're going to hit somebody, like, he knew it was coming, and what happens is everyone else gets pissed because they're all fighting for you. So I remember a good story Dean Brown told me. He's a play-by-play guy in Ottawa, and he was telling me about Chris Neal, and, I got respect for him, and even though the whole playoff thing we had, but, he was a tough guy. So remember they had those 2 brawls, like, it was Ottawa and Buffalo, and the goal, and then Peters fought Ray Emery, and everyone's like, oh my God, you can't fight a goalie, but Ray Emery got rest of soul. Like, he was like, I think he was like a Golden Gloves boxer or something. Like, he was a good fighter. Guys were like, listen, you don't realize how tough this guy was. But anyway, so after those games, and so Dean Brown was telling a story one time when I was doing TV with the Lightning, and it was great because he goes, so he's like, all this stuff happens, right? All these brawls, and everyone's like, the next game's going to be great. And he goes, you know what happened? I'm like, what? He goes, nothing. I go, why? He goes, well, the first shift, or he was like, the first stoppage or first shift. He goes, Chris Neal goes over to Buffalo's bench, and he goes, if anybody touches 11 or 19, the little midget gets it. I don't give a flying, you know what? I'll take a 20-game suspension. Anybody touches 11 or 19, the little midget gets it. I don't care. I'll take a suspension. He was talking about Daniel Briere. So, so Daniel Briere's sitting on the so he's like, Daniel Briere's sitting on the bench going, Jesus Christ, I didn't do anything. Like, what the? So that stopped it because he's like, listen, like, I'm not going to get my head taken off. These guys want to run around like idiots. Like, and he was like, it was hilarious because he's like, we had there was a couple fights so that he fought the Peters or, the heavyweights fought the heavyweights. And other than that, it was a tame game, but it was just him saying that because he's like, he was a little bit crazy and they didn't know if he was going to take his head off or not. So he's like, it was perfect. But it was just, I still good, anybody touches 11 and 19, a little bit, she gets it. So I thought that was a good story. So
I've had Mick Sorley on here before, Marty, and he said a very similar story about being with the LA or the Oilers. I can't remember now, but basically doing the same thing. The guys didn't want to fight him. They basically said, you shuffle him to the end of the door when I'm out, and we're going to go. And if he doesn't, that guy's getting it. And then that guy's getting it. And he came, and away they went the next shift.
Yeah, there's always a way to make guys fight you. So even Kelly Chase, he's a good guy, and he's like, fine. I can remember saying the same thing. Like, you don't have to fight me. You will fight me because you just go run over, I don't know, Sakic. I run over Sakic a couple times or Forsberg. Sure as hell the coach is going, listen, like, whoever's on Dingman or Parker or whoever's on the bench, pick Chris Simon, whoever, like, you better go take care of him because you run after a skill guy. So, yeah, there's a way to make people fight you. McSorley I like watching his fights too, but Jesus. I actually had the idea, the no shoulder pad idea because I watched he had the suspenders. So I was like, this is pretty cool, man. So he just had the cup. So my second or third year, My first year, my jersey was so tight, and I had those big shoulder pads, like the Donzis, and like my jersey was skin tight. So if anybody grabbed my arm, I couldn't throw. It was brutal. So I asked the trainer, so I got a goalie cut jersey. Oh no, my second year. Excuse me, I didn't get a goalie cut jersey, but I had him like cut open the sleeve a little bit and like make it bigger, so you could get your arm out. And then my third year, I had a goalie cut jersey. I had Velcro. I had him like attach some Velcro to my elbow pad right there, so it would hold right here. And then I had the shoulder pads. I had no straps, but they were just thin foam, and then they had the cups. So it was like 1, 2, and then usually like the second throw, I could pull my arm out if the guy was like throwing the seatbelt on, and then once that came off, it was like, oh my god! And then every time the game was on TSN back in the day, it was guaranteed fight night. I just remember Gord Miller. The one game, he's like, watch out, this Dingman guy can throw him. I loved it. I was like, so I had to fight. So I got that idea from McSorley because I remember watching him fight. And the guy's trying to fight him. He's like trying to hold on to this one suspender. It's like, you got nothing to hold on to. And I think back to it, even like, man, those guys were tough. But Jesus, why are you wearing a Jofa? Like, I have one of those Jofa helmets, and I use it for like charity games, right? Like, but there's nothing to that Jofa helmet. And he wore that helmet his whole career. Like, Jesus, man. And then like you got the other guys that had remember those old big Cooper helmets? Like,
yeah.
Some padding. Like, God, man, like you're tough and you're fighting all the heavyweights. You're wearing this little thin plastic Jova helmet. Like, Jesus. So all the respect in the world for him. So I never met him, but that's where I got that idea, the shoulder pad idea, because I thought that was pretty smart.
So you just loved it, eh? You loved showing up to the rink knowing that when – whether it was Forsberg and Sakic and Hayduk and that group of guys in Colorado, or whether it was Lecavalier and Brad Richards and the group in Tampa, or whatever group in between, that when shit went sideways, you were going to be there.
Yeah, I think, there was times, obviously, I was scared for sure. Like, you're fighting Probert. But then after I fought him the first time, and then the second time, I'm like, okay, I can do this, whatever, you know what I mean? And then when you're hurt, it's difficult to fight. Like, there's some times where, I dislocated my shoulder and stuff, but, it's a tough job, and like, people critique you, like, oh my God, you held on too much, or you wouldn't stand back and throw, and it's like, I like doing that. I have to do this to stay in the league. Like, when I went to Colorado, it was like, okay, if you want to play here, we need a physical guy. Okay, no problem. I was a first round pick, whatever, but I had no, like, I wanted to play on that team. So, and then you're on that team and guys appreciate you fighting. Like, when Forsberg says thanks, after you fight a guy, it's great. Or I'm like, remember those Oakley visors came out? That was kind of like early 2000s. That's when Oakley started doing so these guys would go to LA, and I think, God, who was the visor? The Oakley guy. It was Billy Hewitt or something. So like Forsberg and Sakic and those guys would get like 8 pairs of Oakleys. I loved Oakley. So I remember I was asking Forsberg, like, hey, or Joe, I asked Joe, hey, can I get some, you think I get a pair of glasses? He's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, you got 8 pairs. Like, how many pairs do you need? He's like, well, I need one for the boat, one for my truck, whatever. I was like, Jesus, come on, man. And so I asked Forsberg, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, hey, man, do you think I said, I'll buy them off you, whatever. I just think they're cool. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I show up the rink, the practice rink, when we got back from LA, and there was a pair in my stall, and I'm like, how much show you? He's like, nothing. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, nothing. Thank you. Because he knew, like, guys went after him, and he was a guy that whatever. So, yeah, I obviously like sticking up for my teammates, and junior was really fun. Just because, God, even my last year, like Peter Schaefer, he just verbally abused guys because I was standing next to him, and he knew he could do whatever he wanted. So it's when people say the analytics and all that stuff, there's a reason why Bob Probert went to the All-Star game, because he was crazy. He's a nice guy off the ice, right? But like on the ice, he was like, he made room and he could play. So if you have a guy like that, like, in baseball, what they call the 5 tools, or a 5-tool guy, whatever. But if you have a guy that can play and hit and fight and score, oh my God, like, it was great. So anyways, I did enjoy it. I mean, not all the time, obviously, but I did enjoy playing that role because the fans loved it. Like, I was joking, I was in Colorado, and I had a fan club. It was a 4-member fan club. It was like 4 people, it was 2 couples. And they like hold the sign up every game, Chris Dingman fan club. And I'm like, hey, I got a fan club. Adam Foote would be like, "You donkey! There's only 4 people in it, you loser." And I'm like, "I still got a fan club." So, anyways, yeah, I like that the fans enjoyed it, and even in Tampa, like it was great. I could go anywhere, and like I said, even going back to Brandon 20 years later, people are like, "Oh, hey, Dingman," and so they remember. So they people appreciate. I think fans and people appreciate guys that work hard and are willing to hit and fight and block shots because most people are hardworking, blue collar, farmers, or those guys are, man, they're tough, they work hard, and stuff like that. So people in oil and gas, like you do physical jobs. I think people appreciate that. So I like that people appreciate that. And God, what would I talk about this if I didn't have all these stories about people throwing batteries and pop at me? So, and all the brawls and bus rides. So, you got to do some of these things to have some stories to tell. So, yeah, it was good. It was really rewarding. And I did have I saw on it was like a hockey fight stat thing where I'm tied for the most majors in the Stanley Cup Finals with 4 or something. I had 2 in Colorado, so one of which was against Sean O'Donnell and Steve Reinprecht scored. So I got an assist while I was fighting. So I don't know if that's ever happened before. So I'll take it because I was skating off the ice again. And my face is going nuts. It's like whatever. And I'm like, that was a good fight. I didn't think it was that good a fight. And so you get Adam Foote, he's like, freaking idiot. They're not cheering for you. Rhino scored. And Steve Reinprecht, we call him Rhino. I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. So I got an assist. So as I'm going down the tunnel because it was at the end of the game or something, or under 5 minutes in the period or whatever. So anyways, yeah. So I did enjoy it. I did most parts of it I enjoyed. There was obviously some tough things with it too, but a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. But, yeah, definitely I enjoyed playing physical.
You've talked briefly. You win a cup with the Avalanche, and then you win another cup with Tampa Bay. Okay, we gotta just dive a little bit into the Avalanche. I mean, both years, you got the year that Ray Bourque wins it. It's like maybe in the last 20 years, one of the most iconic images of Sakic just grabbing the cup from Bettman. I remember watching that and just being like, it's gone right to Bourque. Like, this is awesome. And even Bettman knew. Everybody knew. The building knew. The whole country knew. And he just walks it over, and up it goes. That is an unbelievably iconic moment. And then a couple years later, Andrew Chuck winning it with Tampa Bay is just as iconic because he's another guy at the end of his career that gets to hoist it.
Yep.
Well, let's start with Colorado. Like, what was it like that year, that finals, Game 7, both of them Game 7? Geez, like, it's almost written up the same way, one could, staring at it. Like, what about Colorado was, you talk about it from day one. You wanted to win the Stanley Cup. That was the expectation. But, what was it like showing up in a dressing room with Forsberg, Sakic, Patrick Waugh, Ray Bourque, Rob Blake? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Drury, Hayduk, yeah. Going down the line. It was it was just a great how do I say this properly? Just a great group of players and great group of people. And they were all about winning. And 2001, 2004, both series we were down 3-2 going on the road. And we had to win Game 6 to go back home. So, I mean, 2001 was it was awesome because Ray came back and there was all this pressure, right? Because Ray came back and win one for Ray. And I remember in the playoffs, every game was every practice was optional. But it wasn't optional for like myself and floor flying guys and whatever. But I didn't care. Like, I like skating. But Ray would come out for every practice, and Sakic would come out a little bit here and there. And I finally said, like, Ray, Jesus Christ, man, what are you doing? Like 42 years old. Like take the day off, man. Take the optional. I would. He goes, first of all, Dinger, I'm 41. Second of all, if I don't come out and skate, I might not get out of bed. So fuck off. I was like, okay, sorry, buddy. I was just kidding, but he's laughing. But he loved it too. Like but he'd only come out for like 10 or 15 minutes. He'd do a couple of skating drills, and like those guys could leave whenever they wanted. So he was great. Like he, again, he was like, it was all win one for Ray and win one. There's all this pressure, and we're going into Game 6, and Harley gave his speech, whatever. And, I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then Ray stood up, and it was like, listen, I'm sick of hearing all this crap about win one for Ray and this and that. He's like, no, win it for yourself. He's like, you win it for yourself. My name would be right next to yours. He's like, here's where we're going. We're going to go out. We're going to win this frigging game. And then we're going back home. We're going to win Game 7. Like, who's with me kind of thing. Like, I'm over this. We're going out. We're going to win this frigging game. And, like, I was like, hairs are standing up. It was like the Braveheart, like, freedom. Like, oh, my God. Yeah, we were winning that game for sure. So I went out and we beat Jersey pretty handily. And then, again, on the bus, he's like, okay, that was great, but we're not done yet. And, Game 7 was, we just knew we were going to win. It was like, you have that feeling. And, like Jersey could have won on home ice. And then you have the cup in the building, you got to get on the plane. And, the next game was a great, Alex Tanguay had 2 goals and, it was great. And there was so much pressure on it, but it was great. It was good pressure. And what people don't know before that is that, so Harley was like, I'm going to play my top guys. And then if we lose, I played my top guys. Well, like Joe Sakic's one of the best conditioned athletes I've ever played with. And, everyone's in good shape. I was always in like I had the best wind gate the couple years I was there, the sprint bike. But like you're killing these guys. Like Bob would play these guys like enormous minutes. And then the playoffs, you got like, it's 4 rounds and it's taxing. And, Peter Forsberg lost his spleen after the second round. And, I remember so I'll never forget, we're playing St. Louis. We're going in like double or triple overtime. And our line had scored that game and we played like 7 minutes. So if you do the math, we played 7 minutes out of, 100 minutes of hockey. It's not a lot of ice time. And who's playing all those minutes? So you're down Forsberg. So I'll never forget, we're in St. Louis and Ray gets up and in the locker room, you go through the locker room and there's a coach's office and Ray gets up, goes into the coach's room, slams the door. And like 2 minutes later, he comes out and he goes, everyone's going to play beef, be effing ready. And like all of a sudden they're rolling the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And like he wanted to win that bad. He basically said, play me less. So I thought that was great. It's, he really wanted to win. We wanted to win for him, but his whole demeanor and just the way he handled everything was, no, don't win it for me. We're going to win this. Like, win it for yourself. It's not win one for me because there's so much pressure and stuff. So, to be able to do that, yeah, I just, Ray Bourque, you waited, a long time to get this, Gary Bevan, whatever. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, look, and I'm like, hey, well, that's me in the background. You can see my beard. Oh, there it is. And so I was like, hey, there's me. Hey, there's Ray. there's Patty Waugh. And even the best part is, the kids were all super young. So I was a young guy and, Ray was 41 and, Patty was in his 30s, whatever. And, I'm like 23, 24, somewhere in there or whatever. And their kids were all young. They like Jeff Odgers the year before when unfortunately he wasn't there when we won, but like his kids were tiny. Like all their kids, like Ray Bourque's kids, they were like, 10, 11, 12, whatever. Now they're all grown and stuff. So it was pretty neat. So yeah, that was a special one. And, 2004 was great too. Same thing, Dave Anderchuk had waited 20, some odd years or whatever. So it was pretty special too. We're down, same thing, down 3-2, going to Calgary and win Game 6 in double overtime, and worked out good in Game 7. So people always there were some guys online that were talking about that goal, and I said, like it was over the line or whatever. And we watched the video, we looked at it, and they proved it wasn't. Like who knows? But I always tell my kids, like if you're gonna score in overtime or you're gonna score, you better make sure like the back of the net goes like this. So then there's no like irrefutable, you don't see irrefutable evidence. Like it was in, like not like ooh maybe went in or whatever. But I chirped this Calgary fan, and because I just said there was still Game 7. Like you still had one more game. So whether it was in or not, you still had another game. So you could have won it in Game 7, but you didn't. We did. So zip it, basically. So, yeah, both great teams. Like you said, some veteran guys. You needed everybody to win. The 2 guys in Ray Bourque and Dave Anderchuk that, played a long time and had to wait a long time to win. And, you want to win it for them, but, you want to win it for yourself too, and you want to win it for your buddy. And, the teams that win, there's a reason why teams win and don't win. And, there's always something, you know what I mean? There's that, you've talked to enough guys, you have a feeling, you get hot, or you get on a streak, or you have a goalie who's phenomenal, or you just have good teams. Like back in the 2000s, I mean, you had Detroit, you had Dallas, they had good teams, in Colorado, and it was like we would play, and it was great because we would play teams. And I remember someone saying this to me after, like, we would play you guys in Colorado, and even talking about Fleury, where like he had a hard time going to Colorado, and I was like, why? And I remember like Adam Foote or a couple of guys were like, well, because you're getting everyone's A game. It's not like going into Calgary when you're out of the playoffs. No one gives a shit because, it's January and you just want to – it's a Saturday night and you just want to win so you can go to Cowboys or go have a couple beers after. Like, no one's getting geared up to play Calgary when they're, in the 12th spot or 10th spot. You know what I mean? Back in, the early to mid-90s. Like, but when you go to Colorado, you're playing Colorado. Like, you're getting everyone's A game. And that's like, so it's difficult. And it was great, too, because – you were like the measuring stick. So I remember someone saying, like, when we played you guys, like that's where, like you knew if you're like a contender, I guess, or not. Basically, is that, if you could hang with them, then you had a good team. Like, and so you were the measuring stick. So you're always getting everyone's A game. You weren't getting like, you weren't catching anybody by surprise. You weren't going into St. Louis and catching them sleeping. They were ready to go because they knew, like if they were ready to play, that, Forsberg or Sakic or whomever would light you up. So it was great. Like just all of it. So just very, two good teams and two great players that had to wait a long time, which was great for them and great for me. So I was just lucky to be there and, be a part of it.
What did you do with your days with the Cup?
Just partied. Basically stood like this, took pictures. No, I just took it around to some places and some friends and took a lot of pictures and just had a party. And I just, bought beer and had played drums. So I had a band, a local cover band called Mustard Smile. So they played my first one and they played the second one. They played my wedding reception kind of thing, party we had. So, just took it around and, to be honest with you, the fun for me was like how excited everyone else gets. And it was just like, oh my God, can we drink out of the cup? The rules are, you're at my party, and if I say it's okay, you can drink out of the cup, or you want to hoist it, I have to hand it to you. There's certain rules or whatever. And but for me, we just had basically went around, did some pictures that family and friends. I was went around a couple places in town that friends' places and stuff, and then just had a party, and then afterwards I just hang out and. Every time I just sit there, like the first time after I went to Colorado, like I went back to I was renting my wife and I were renting a condo or whatever in a building, 2-bedroom place or whatever. And I just remember like going back and I sat at the kitchen table and I just looked at the names, and that was the best part of it, because you had a few beers, whatever, and everyone's still partying and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I told my wife, just tell everyone to leave me alone for a couple minutes. I'm like, why? She's like, well, he's looking at the names. So I was like, I was going through all the years. And, I mean, there's just so many iconic players and Hall of Fame players. And so I just like looking through 70s and, the Flyers and Montreal and Larry Robinson, all these great players. And then you go to the 80s and you got the Islanders. You got Trache, who coached me, who was a terrific man. And, Bossy. And you had those 4 years and the Oilers. So I was like, okay, I grew up in Edmonton, Oilers guy. Okay, who's on that team? Who's on that team? Okay, Pockman didn't put his son or his wife's name on, and it got X'd out. So you can see the X out on they actually X'd the name out on the cup. So just being able to see all the names over the years, and you kind of look, it's pretty surreal. And like Chris Dingman, like I'm going to be on this friggin' thing, man. Like I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. So that's what I try to do after just having a good time and playing the drums and just enjoying it. But like the first party was great because the cup guy, and you think it's the best job ever. Like, oh my God, I'd love to be the cup guy. No, you don't. It's like, it'd be like The Hangover for a whole summer, that movie. Like you wake up, like, Jesus Christ, you got to get on a plane, you go to the next place. You just go from party to party. And you're just like, and you're like, you're dealing with drunken a-holes. Because, you know what I mean? Like it's not the guy. It's like always a buddy or someone else who's drunk and wants to do something. You got to tell them, no, you can't touch it. No, you can't pick it up. No, you know what I mean? and you do it rinse and repeat. And you know, like you go to bed at 2. I remember the Cup guy saying like, "Okay, I can stay at your place or I can stay at the hotel." And I'm like, "I got to play. You know, I got an extra bedroom." He's like, "Okay, I'm going to bed." He's like, "But if you're gonna go anywhere, wake me up. Like, just okay, don't take it anywhere. You're allowed to have it. You know, whatever. I'll get it in the morning." I was like, "Okay, perfect." So you think it's the best job, and it's like, you know, all you do is go from party to party. But anyways, my first party, I had to rent a room at the Royal Glenora, which is like a country club, I guess, or whatever you call it here, like a tennis club and stuff. And so he's got like he puts the, you know, he gets the jacket, and they have the jacket and the white gloves when they handle it, right? So he's like, he's getting in, and I was like, "Yeah, listen, it's like pretty casual, man. You don't need to bring like, you don't need a suit jacket or whatever. Just gonna wear a t-shirt and stuff." He's like, "No, I'll just bring it just in case." And he was a younger guy. I forget it was. It's not the main guys you see on TV all the time. It was one of the other guys, and a nice guy. But his job, he was a teacher. Like, so during the winter, he was a teacher, and then in the summer, he was like the Cup guy. So like he just wheel around. So never forget. So I'm up and I'm playing the drums, and they had like, so in the corner, like we had a little setup where the Cup was on a table with black tablecloth underneath, and you know, like light over it. So it's like, you know, ooh, here it is. Like, anyways, so I'm playing drums. I look over, and my buddy, who's a lawyer now, he's got the jacket and the white gloves on. He's taking a picture, so he's got his arm like this, and like he's taking a picture with the Hockey Hall of Fame jacket and the white gloves. And I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be a good party, because the guy was outside having a beer or something, and you know, he was single, so he was trying to hit on some girls or something. So I was like, this is gonna be a good party. So, anyways, yeah, just enjoyed it with family and friends, and yeah. Again, at the end of the night, I always tried to just take it in, soak it in. It's a cool trophy, and there's so much history behind it. I mean, you do so many fun things, like it's been in pools, and you know, people drink out of it, and, you know, whatever and stuff. But it's just like part of the beauty of it is, if you look at it up close, it's beat up, like it's dented, it's warped, it's, you know, it's been around for, you know, 100 years or whatever.
That's the history of it, though. That's what's beautiful about it, right? Is the
Well,
amount
yeah.
of history on the Cup.
Well, and again, you don't know why a rule exists till something happens. Well, there's a reason why they have a Cup guy, because like there were stories in New York where Esa Tikkanen left in a cab, or Mark Messier, they lost, like it went missing for like a couple of hours. Like someone, God, who's telling me that story? Might have been Steve Smith or someone was telling me a story where they went missing for like 2 hours, and it was like in the subway or something. So they're like freaking out, and they're like, I think it's in the, like, you know, car 52 or something. So like they're scrambling around trying to find it. So after that, there was all of a sudden there was a Cup guy, because it went missing a couple times. So yeah, I mean, there's so many stories you've heard of, and you know, I have stories, and nothing super crazy. Just, you know, that's why there's a Cup guy, because it went missing. So now this poor guy's got to travel around. It's great. It's like, you know, but you just go from party to party. You get on, you know, you got to put in you get it up next day. You got, like, I remember the guy put it in the shower, cleaned it down, and, you know, buffed it all up, made it look good, put it in the case, and then he went to, where did he go to? I don't know. Like, he went to Steve Reinprecht's after, and then in Tampa he went to Daryl Sador's. So like, you just get up, rinse, repeat, and you're party after party, and I think it's a good job.
Imagine the stories he could tell. He probably had to sign away his life to ensure he never tells any stories.
Oh yeah, like the Mike. So the one of the head guys, Mike Bolt. He was with us. We were in Colorado, and it was weird because we went for dinner, and a bunch of guys went out of town or something. And so it was like myself and my wife, and then Stefan Yell, and his wife, and then Dave Reed, and then a couple other people. And everyone at home, there's like there's just the four of us, and then some other friends. We were in downtown Denver, and we're on the patio, and I'm doing this, like, you know, it was like cheering. So we go across from like one bar to the other, and then I just get converged on like 200 people. Like, we're on the street, and like literally like just came flocking in. Like the Cup guy got knocked on his ass, and like, you know, someone else got knocked over, and I'm like this, like, and I didn't go down. So I was really proud of myself. And then like, as I get pushed into this other bar, and all of a sudden there's all these cops, and they're like, yeah, we'll take care of you, whatever you want, but can I get a Polaroid? And I'm like, sure, no problem. But the guy still every time I see him, he's like, I still remember that time in Denver. He's like, I thought for sure you're going to drop the Cup, and you never did. And I'm like, there's no way I'm dropping it. There is no chance, because there's been guys I played with where like their girlfriend or fiance knocked it over by accident. So you hear that story, you're like, I'm not going to be that guy that guys like, oh my God, you hear so-and-so, you hear Dinger drop this or whatever. I'm like, not that guy. So every time I see him, it's great. He's like, oh my God, I still tell that story, man. I can't believe you didn't fall down, because I was just like hanging on for dear life, and I wasn't dropping it, not on my watch. So
talking way before he came here, you mentioned it, drumming. And he told me you got to drum for Garth Brooks. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
How the hell did you pull off drumming for Garth Brooks?
Well, he's got his charity Teammates for Kids, and it started with a charity softball game in '99 in Denver, and then so he has a weekend every year for the athletes to contribute to his foundation. And he was retired; he wasn't touring for like 10 years there or whatever. So him and Trish Yearwood, and so he'd have a weekend and he'd play. They started alternating where like the one year would be him and his whole band, the next year would just be him playing the acoustic guitar. So we've been going for a few years, and we won. And like the one year after Denver, like Sean Podine was like giving everyone the good game, like smacking him on the ass, like good game. And he did it to Garth and did it to Trish Yearwood. I thought her head was going to explode, but I just kind of laughed because it was like, and Garth was like, his Scott Zebedee, the head of his foundation, he would say like we're the like hockey players are the only guys like he'd like have a beer with. So he'd actually have a couple of beers with us, because he's always got to be on top and on top of his game and talk whatever. But anyways, we go to this charity for a few years, and then the head of the foundation say they get guys that get up and play. Like so, Sean Bourque, he's a really good guitarist, so he got up and played guitar the one year. I heard about it. So the guy's like, "Oh, Dinger, I hear you play drums." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Want to play?" And I said, "I don't care, sure, whatever." So we're at the pre-party the night before the live auction event, and then he plays a concert after. So I feel his arms around me like, "Dinger, is that you?" I turn around, Garth Brooks. I'm like, "Holy crap, man!" He's like, "I hear you play drums." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "So you want to get and play tomorrow?" I was like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Sure, if you want me to." So he's like, "All right, come down to sound check tomorrow, and we'll see what you can do, kind of see if you can play." So sound check was at 2, and God, I didn't get home till like 11 in the morning because I was freaking gambling, which was good because I was still probably had a little buzz going. So I go down to sound check, and I'm not on the list. So I'm like, "Hey, Chris Dingman." Like, "Sorry, who?" And I'm like, "Chris Dingman." Like, "Sorry, you're not on the list." And this is at Coliseum at Caesar, so this place is like Fort Knox, whatever. And so I lost my phone. And I left my phone in a cab the week before, so I had no phone. So I got to go all the way like through the lobby at Caesar's Palace, 37 floors up, called Scott Zebedee's. I'm like, "Hey, Zebs, man, like I'm supposed to be at sound check, whatever. They won't let me in. And the name's on the list." She's like, "I don't worry about it. Go back down." So I go all the way back down, 37 floors, blah, 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 through the lobby. Same guy. "Hey, Chris Dingman." "Oh, sure, no problem. Go right in." I'm like, "You're a dick." Like, Jesus. Like, I never do it, but that was the one time, like, before I was like, I'm a hockey player. I'm part of his foundation. The guy's like, "I don't care." But then I go right back down 10 minutes later, right? Or whatever it was. And, "Oh, yeah, sure, no problem." So anyways, so I go in and like they're done. So Garth's standing around talking with the band, and they're done. I'm like, "Oh my God, I look like an asshole." So I was like, "Oh my God, Garth, I'm so sorry. This place is like Fort Knox. They wouldn't let me in or whatever." And he's like, "Don't worry about it, Dinger." He's like, looks at the band. He's like, "Oh, you guys don't mind if we play a couple more songs, do you?" And like, what are they going to say? No. So it's Garth Brooks, right? So he's like, "Can you really play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, So I just like, start playing where whatever. So he's like, "All right, he's like, that song That Summer?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." He's like, "Take it from the top. I've never played it in my life, but I can listen to music and I can read sheet music a little bit, but I can listen and play stuff. I can have an ear, I guess." So yeah, he's like, "Take it from the top." So he wants to say, "I would work for that summer." So I play the song, and it's basic 2/4 and whatever. And so I play it, and he's like, "Okay, we finished the song." He was like, "I want to do the ending a little differently. Take it from the third to last part." I'm like, "Whoa, what do you mean?" Like, he's like, "I just want to whatever." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So yeah, I play it. He's like, "You want to get up and play tonight?" I'm like, "Sure, yeah, if you want me to." So he's like, "Okay." So yeah, I got up and played with him that night, but he didn't tell me when he was calling me up, and so we had to do live auction stuff, shit before, and
Were you
like it
shitting
wasn't.
bricks or no?
Oh yeah, man, I must have took a leak like 50 times. I was so nervous, like, because I can get up and play. Like I could have, I could have a bunch of beers. I could get up in any bar and play pretty much any, rock song or whatever, no problem. Because I do it all the time. Like just play some Motley Crue song or Poison or Nirvana or whatever. But I mean, this is Garth
This is
Brooks and
Garth
people.
fucking Brooks.
Yeah, people are paying like $1,500 a ticket to Coliseum at Caesar. So, yeah, I was having a few drinks and just because I was so friggin' nervous. My wife's like, "Just don't drink too much." Remember what happens when you drink? Because I can drink a fair amount and still play well. But like, there was one year I was at a charity golf tournament and I'd had a few too many before I got on stage and I was playing Summer '69. I just couldn't get the beat. It was just and then I played Knocking on Heaven's Door, no problem after, but like I just couldn't, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, she's like, just don't, whatever. So I had to have a few because I was so friggin' nervous. But God, I must have went to the bathroom like 50 times. It wasn't even fun. Like it was fun when I did it, but like I didn't enjoy the evening. Like he starts the concert and he's playing like, much too young to feel this damn old and friends will play, whatever. And I'm not even listening. I'm just like, cup of coffee. It's like it was like. So for me, like to play a song, like I just have to know how I'm getting into the song, basically. Hear it, and then once you get into the song, you're playing. It's like for me, it's no problem. So yeah, I did. I was just so then once I like, he calls me out and he starts talking, joking around. I have it on video. It's great. It's pretty cool. So I play whatever. So I go up and I play. We play so we're gonna do this little bluesy rock jam. So I just start playing, and then everyone does a solo, like the keyboardist, guitarist, and then so after that, everyone's like, "Oh wow, this guy can actually play." And so he's like, Garth's really good. He's a showman or whatever, and he goes, "Well, that's pretty good, but can you play a Garth Brooks song?" And then watch it, and it wouldn't work for that. So I'm not gonna sing because I'm not a very good singer, but so we play a song and. I still screwed the ending up because he wanted to do something like dun, 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 or something. So I do this, and I'm like whatever, I made it last as long as I could. Like songs where at the end they're like, everyone's doing the fill. So, anyways, I finish it, and the drummer comes over. And I was like, "Thanks, man." He gave me like the double. Like, I was like, "Thank you very much," whatever. And I went over to Garth Brooks. I went to shake his hand. He gave me this big hug, and I was like, and I whispered into his ear, I was like, "Oh my God, that was effing awesome." And he's like, "Yeah, man, that was awesome," whatever. And I was like, "Ah." So then I walked off through the crowd, and there was like Barry Melrose and Steve Levy and all these famous people and shit. I was like, "Oh my God," my wife was pregnant with my second child, and I was like, "Oh my God, if I die tonight, it's been a good run. Like 2 cups, played drums with Garth Brooks in Vegas." So yeah, it was good. It was a great experience, and just glad I didn't screw it up. I almost did. There was one part of the song when I started to do a fill, and then the guitarist was like, because I say the guitarist, just kind of like give me a nod or a signal when I'm like, you're going to change into a different whatever. Or when something's, because it was like the song goes, and she had a need to feel the thunder, And so I started doing this fill, and the guy turned to look at me and went, no, 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 no. I was like, okay. So I almost did screw up once, but I did pretty good, so I could say.
One other thing I got to ask about a famous singer is Celine Dion. I've heard mention of it by you a couple times going to the Pepsi Center, I think, for a Celine Dion concert. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, it was the first event at the Pepsi Center, and so we had the weekend off. So I'm like, so what my wife would do, she'd go to school for half the year and then come down and live with me. And so I'm like, oh, what are we doing? Like, guys, what are we gonna do? And everyone's like, finally, everyone's going to a freaking Celine Dion concert, and she's a talented musician and singer, but I'm like a Slipknot, Metallica, Motley Crue, whatever. I'm a metal guy.
Not Celine Dion. My heart will
yeah,
go
Pearl
on.
Jam, whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, I appreciate her talent, her effort, but yeah, not so much. So, anyways, God, so like guys are all going to the show. I find out like Drury's having a party before. I'm like, oh my God. So I like Charlotte Graham, she was a secretary, super nice lady. I was like, Charlotte, do you think I could get a ticket, please? And she's like, oh yeah, sure, shouldn't be a problem. Whatever. So I get a ticket. So I'm like, just one ticket for me, and it's front row. So I got a single ticket front row for Celine Dion. Like, shoot me in the face, Jesus Christ. So I didn't want to go, and I'm like, and they had the front of the bow of the Titanic, because near, far, wherever. I'm like, I'm puking in my mouth just thinking about this. Like, she's gonna be like doing this, so I'm like, am I gonna stand up and look at her and wave? Like, Christ, she's run me over with the Titanic. So I'm like, oh God. So we go to Drury's place before, and And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, I can't sit there by myself. Like, what a loser. I'm going to go to a Celine Dion concert by myself and sit in the front row and, like, went double fisted and just try not to puke. Like, so, yeah, so Adam Foote, so Larry Walker and Mike Lansing, a couple of the Rockies guys. So Larry Walker is a great guy, and he was a big hockey fan, obviously Canadian guy. And he'd come to all our games. So him and Adam Foote were buddies. So Adam Foote goes, well, hey, I'm going to be up in Walks' box. I'm like, who? He's like, Larry Walker. I'm like, you could be Larry Walker's box? Like, oh, Jesus Christ, really? He's like, yeah, just come up there, no problem. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, God, thank God. Like, you know, this is Metallica. I'm going by myself. I don't give a shit, or Pantera or whatever. So anyways, yeah, so I just went and ended up going into Larry Walker's box, and Adam Foote wasn't even there, so a security lady took me. One of the security people took me up there, and I walk in, and then Footy's not even in there, so I look like an a-hole, and I'm like, and Larry Walker turns around, I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Walker, is Adam here? He told me to come here. He's like, oh, no problem, Dinger, come sit down. You want a beer? And I was like, sure. So I get to hang out with Larry Walker, drink Coors Original, so, and listen to My Heart Will Go On. So it made it bearable, let's just say that. So, yeah, that was my Celine Dion story. Front row, I gave up a front row seat to Celine Dion, but I think I'll be okay.
Well, let's move into our final. I feel like I could probably do this for about 10 hours, but I'll let you back to your wife and children after the Crude Master Final Five. We have a little segment here at the end, so a huge shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald who help support the podcast. Just 5 quick questions, and then we'll let you on your way. So the first one is, which tough guy was the best to go for beers with afterwards?
Sean Thornton. God, he's great in minors. He was great. Sean Thornton.
And where would you guys go? Where would you go sit and have beers at?
I don't know. It's in St. John's. So whatever that street is, that one street where all the bars, we go to one of those.
George Street.
Yeah, there you go, George Street. Yeah. So Thornton was always good. Good to chat with after. So yeah, there's my guy.
Which Stanley Cup team partied harder?
Harder?
Yeah.
Tampa. Well, yeah, I don't know. Colorado, we had a lot of days off, so we'd always go and have a few. But yeah, probably Tampa. I'd say, yeah, we had a good time. We go on the road and play guilty and whatever. And yeah, so I'd say Tampa. But when you win, man, you party a lot. So you see it with Ovechkin, like Christ. When he was like him in the Oshie, I was like, that's awesome. I love that because, God, when I won in Tampa, we won, and then I had my stag stay in Vegas, so I had to go to Vegas for 3 days. God, I was gonna have a heart attack. I was like, my heart was going 100 miles an hour. The room at 60, and I was sweating my ass off. And I got back, and then Bill Wickett, he was like, "Hey, you want to go to New York?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, like you remember TRL and VH1, you know, like the Total Quest Live, the Carson Daly, whatever." He's like, "Yeah, Vinny was supposed to go. Vinny Lecavalier was supposed to go with Brad Richards. Richie, Vinny can't go. Do you want to go?" I was like, I just watched Major League the other day. You remember when they asked the manager, like, "Hey, what do you think about managing the Indians?" I don't know. I got a guy on the other line about Smart Walls. I got to think about it. So we watched that with the kids, and I was like reciting it word for word. That's what I was like. So, yeah, you want to go to New York? I was like, Wick, I don't know, man. I'm tired. I don't know, man. I've just been it was like 10 days in a row. I'm dying, man. I need a day off. And he was like, well, the NHL will pay for I'll pay for your hotel and first class seat for you in Chelsea. And you can have the cup for the night in New York. I was like, okay, I could probably do it. So I ended up having a good night in New York with the cup. But anyway, so yeah, there you go.
On a side note, did you go to the White House both times?
Neither time.
Neither time?
No, lockout. After 2004 was the lockout, and then 2001 I got traded to Carolina. So 0 for 2. But I have been to the White House. I've been underneath, and I've seen the bowling alley. Dwayne Rolson had a buddy who was like Secret Service or something. So I have been to the White House. But, yeah, I never did the presentation or whatever you want to call it.
No kidding.
0 for 2, man.
If you could pick your line mates, who would you take?
Like guys I played with or all time or?
I'll let you decide.
Jeez. Tough one. It would be, well, Wayne Gretzky. I don't know. I don't know if I could pick two. That'd be tough. But like Forsberg, any combination of Forsberg, Wayne Gretzky, and Sakic. I think just. I like to, you know what? I like to throw in like even Probert. Like if I could have someone like if Wayne Gretzky could center me and Probert, that'd be good because then he could like kick the crap out of people, and I could be the one running around telling people to go F themselves because I had Proby behind me. It's always nice to have someone tougher. So there you go. It's kind of there you go. That'll be my line.
Gretzky.
That's my line. Yeah.
Gretzky.
I'll play right wing. I'll play right wing. Yeah. And then Proby, he could go forecheck and scare the bejesus out of everyone. I could stand in the slot and take one tease.
You were traded 3 times in your career. If you were to be traded a 4th and could have one guy go with you, who would have been the guy you'd taken?
4th time. Man. So many good options. I'd say Andre Waugh. Just because, man, that guy's funny.
Oh, how so?
How so? Oh, my God. You ever watch him? He's on RDS. He's got a show. He's a beauty. He's just, I don't know, just get him on. Get him on. You'll find out. We did Zoom calls, and God, we were doing a Zoom call with the 04 team, and Christ, he had 10 different outfits. He'd go, leave, come back. He had an Army outfit on, and he had something. He's a beauty. He's just, yeah. So it'll probably be him just for sheer entertainment value. Like, we had a game where the owner came in, Mr. Davidson. He's passed away now, but he was the guy that owned like the Pistons and us and the WNBA team. And so he came to a game and he met everyone, and then we got pounded. So Torts was pissed. He's like saying, whenever I'm the freaking owner in the fucking dressing room before the game, I don't give a shit and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so then the next day, Wazzy was talking with Svitov, a couple of Russians, about getting the Russian national anthem. And so he, before practice, one of them brings it in. And so he puts it on the sound system or whatever. And he's sitting there like, and like it's like blaring through the whole. Torts comes in and just loses it, opens the thing out, grabs the CD, fucking snaps it out, turn that shit off, whatever. And like, Wazzy's like, Andre's like, well, what's the problem, man? And like, so in the practice, one of the, the advertisements on the boards, well, it used to be the stick-on. Now they have the electronic ones mostly, but they had, they had the stick-on ones. Well, one came loose. I mean, that same practice, he put it on his jersey as a cape, so he's skating around with the thing. Torts is losing it, and the Andre's like, "What the fuck? What's his problem, man?" I'm like, "Wazzy, we just got pounded at home, man. Like, you can't be." He's like, "Why? We can't have fun." I'm like, "I don't know. When the owner's in town, we get pounded, fouled 5-1 or whatever. Yeah, I don't think it's the best choice to play the Russian national anthem full bore next practice." So, anyways, I'll go Wazzy.
Your final one. You mentioned playing guilty. Now, my playing guilty, or most people's playing guilty stories, can't even probably rival anything in the NHL. What is your best playing guilty story that you can share?
Well, never really nothing bad. I think there's one where I fought Chris Simon in New York, and we were out, and God, I was just like in warm up, like, God, just feel good, keep it simple. And then he cross-checked, fed a take on the head, so I got to fight him. And, like, he said no the first time, and then second time. That was one, I don't know if you've seen it, but, like, he just starts throwing, and I throw a couple, and I, like, throw him into the bench. And I was like, thank God I made it through that one. So, and then we were in Tampa. Right before the game, we went to Kaylee's or something, and it wasn't, like, bad playing guilty, but so Landry just put his credit card down, and all of a sudden he gets like, we get the bill and it's like $1,500 or something. I'd paid for my own, everyone paid for their own stuff, but there's like 50 Appletinis on there, like 100 beers. And so the bartender was like, padding his bill, I guess you'd say. And so Tim Taylor's like, we're not paying this is bullshit, whatever. And and so all of a sudden the guy's like, okay, how about $750? And Dave's like, just pay it. Like, Jesus, let's get out of here. And so we're playing hockey in Canada the next night. Excuse me. And so we're like having a good game, whatever. And so we had to win like 8-2 or something. And like Marty had a hat trick or whatever. But like during the game, like during a TV timeout, right across from the bench, this guy holds up this like big sign like over his head that says, "Hey, Andrew Chuck, pay your bar tab." And so we're sitting on the bench and we're like, "Oh my God, I don't know what Katorzi is." Like, I'm sitting next to like Andre and Tim Taylor. I'm like, "Oh my God, I hope he can't see that or whatever." Like, so, anyways, we won the game and handily. So, just a couple stories. Like, nothing bad, just stuff like that. Like, oh my God, like, did he see it? Did he see it? Like, and we're playing really well, winning. So, what's he, gonna say? Well, you can't do it because you played too well. Like, so there's nothing. You just go and have a few beers or whatever sometimes, and it was just team bonding more than anything. It was just guys just hanging out and whatever. So yeah, I did enjoy that one. Like, hey, like hockey night in Canada, like Jesus Christ, right across from the bench. So I did quite enjoy. Oh God, I don't know if Tort saw it or not, but maybe he did. I think he was good about stuff like that too. He was very hard at training camp and stuff, and then he just he had to come to camp in shape and he had to work hard. And then during the season, he wanted the guys to hang out, so he was good like that. So there you go. There's a couple stories.
You want to give a shout out to Stout Gloves? Probably, you're talking to a lot of listeners in Lloyd and area, and that's a lot of oil field agriculture people.
Yeah, sure. Stout gloves, impact safety gloves, cut resistant. We got all different kinds. Oil block. I was actually just in Lloyd last Thursday, or this past Thursday, whatever. So I get up there and saw my old. Went for lunch with our mutual friend of ours, Jody Lehman, Trig Energy. So there's so many guys. Yeah, so it's been great. So we got Stout Gloves. We got the website stoutgloves.ca and. He'd call a number. I think he goes through to me sometimes. I think he goes through to me all the time. So yeah, call the number on the website. I don't even know what it is. It's like 877 something. So
go to Stout Gloves and you can have a one-on-one chat with the big fella.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Tell you what, I'll tell you. If I'll make a deal with people. If you buy like 50 pairs or more, I'll tell you a really good story. I didn't tell tonight. So there you go. There's my sales.
Oh, now I got it.
Yeah, get off your wall, man. Buy some gloves. That was almost 2 hours. You gotta you're gonna have like the longest podcast ever. Better edit this thing.
You're a good story. You're a good storyteller. I've been crying for half of it. But thanks, Chris, for hopping on. I really appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.